Welcome one and all to the Suzuka International Racing Course, of course, in Japan. We're back for another alternative track layout video on F1 2020, around the 5.807 kilometres of this legendary circuit, first built in 1962, and it was actually Honda. Honda built it as a test track, but now the first race being in 1987, which I think was a title decided between Mansell and PK. But we're in the Red Bull, running down towards that first corner, seeing many controversy at a race start because it tightens the further you go into it, very high speed on that entry bit, making sure we hit the apex at every point. And now we run up through the legendary S's once again. And what's really interesting about this circuit is there aren't really any historic layouts. The track has stayed relatively the same since 1962. There's been a bit of reprofiling here and there, I think especially at Degner now as we climb up through Dunlop, and now to run down towards those two famous Degner corners, Degner 1 and 2, row the car in and then get this car slowed down as we get underneath the 130R section to make this figure of 8 track, and now up towards the hairpin. Again, I think another quite actually sort of iconic corner as well. We're coming out of the hairpin, coming out of turn 11. We take a sharp right just before we go through 200R, make this little chicane, and then back out onto the circuit on the run towards Spoon Corner. Now going through this long turn 12, and then towards a legendary Spoon Corner. Throw the car in, keep it in 5th gear, drop it down to 4th, and then getting on the power for that run down the back straight, flying towards 130R. Flat out, of course, in these F1 2020 cars, and past a small little pit lane, which we'll have a little discussion about a little bit later on. Through 130R we go, flat out, easy, and then down towards the final chicane. And we're going to be taking the Casio Triangle a little bit deeper, and then a very tight chicane to get you back onto the main straight, running down out of the last corner and across the line. And there'll be a smooth little transition here. You won't even notice it, just about there. Very, very smooth. And we're actually going to be having a look at the other layout that F120 provides for us, because there is a short track option. Of course, on these alternate track videos, we use every single alternative layout we can get our hands onto, and F1 2030 providing us with that short track, the East Circuit, to be precise. And as we go up through towards the top of Dunlop, instead of following around to the left, it's a sharp right, taking us actually onto the final corner, a lap time in the mid 30 seconds, and onto the pit straight. We'll now have a look at the little changes that were made. And it's actually really interesting to see the little chicane after turn 11 hairpin, just sort of mid-200R. It's actually the Motorcycle Grand Prix circuit what we're using. So we go to the left to take that alternate line. Actually, the Casio Triangle is what it's called. Then the new right after turn 7. This is part of the East Circuit. And then, of course, you come back out of the East Circuit, back onto the GP pit straight. And actually, there's another layout. There's the West Circuit, which is, you can see the joining there just before the final chicane. And it takes you just after Dunlop. And it a bit like Kota in the last video. It's sort of basically every part that the short track that we're allowed to do doesn't run onto the pit straight. Well, the pit lane actually is where I mentioned we'll be able to see it in a little bit, but coming out of Spoon, it's just on the right. There's a little pit lane. It's not a circuit that's used often. I believe you can race it in Real Racing Free on the sort of iOS or iPhone sort of things if you've played any of that. But it's such an iconic circuit. I'm a little bit surprised when digging into things that it's never really had any historic layouts. It's got 3 core layouts to itself. There's obviously been a few alterations, like that final chicane was only introduced, I think, in the sort of 80s. And so that used to be flat out. Used to be run out of 130R, flat out around the last corner. Well, I don't think the cars could take it flat out, but had the ability to. Again, we're looking at this little chicane just coming out of the final hairpin. And when I'm having a think about, when we look back at Abu Dhabi, we look at how we can improve the racing. And Japan is another one of those tracks that it can just tend to be a little bit of possession, can be very hard to overtake. And having a think about what we could do to try and improve that, I don't think the chicane after the hairpin, just midway through 200R, I don't think that would be beneficial to the racing. It sort of stops us again, means the cars can't have that nice flow up towards Spoon. But I think what this Casio Triangle chicane might help. It might really help with a bit of reprofiling. I think needed. It's a little bit tight, I think, to get back onto the main circuit. But nevertheless, I think it's definitely, it gives you that bit more distance going towards the braking zone. You didn't see that transition. That's how smooth it was as we now look at the East Circuit lap. But of course, the East Circuit way too short. The lap time being mid 30 seconds. It's 2.2 kilometres, even shorter than that crazy Bahrain outer loop. As we make our way through the S's, iconic just that, the corners here just mean the cars can't follow. The S's especially, as we now fly right to shoot back onto the main straight. The next video will be in Italy as we have a look at Monza and a bit of its history as well. So make sure to subscribe and look forward to that video.